So I went back up to stay at Harris's and teach the East Indian Creek School. Well, of course, in the meantime, Howard and I had been corresponding quite regularly. In fact, he had come out during August, during the days of the Interior Rodeo. They called it Roundup then.
Mm-hmm.
The Interior had quite a well-known roundup. They called them roundups at that time, instead of rodeos. And in fact, it was so popular that the Chicago, Milwaukee, and St. Paul Railroad had a special train that brought people who wanted to come out to watch this with sleeping cars and all, and a dining car, come and just park right there in the railroad station on a sidetrack for anybody that wanted to come and attend the Interior Roundup, and would stay there during the Roundup so they could attend the Roundup. And I suppose they advertised it and so on. So this was before school started then, and Mother, I said, oh, let's go to, can't we go? We had Dad had bought an old Model T Ford by that time, and Leonard had learned to drive it. So, of course, Dad didn't care about going at all. He had other business. He was kind of superintendent of schools. He was busy getting ready for the school term. But Mother said, well, that would be fun. Let's go. And so Esther and Rose and Leonard and I went to Interior, to the Roundup. We were going to stay with some friends of Mother's who had a ranch out south of us, but the mother of the boys had a house in Interior. So she had written to them that we were coming, and they said, well, come and stay with us, the Hannons. So that was our plan. Well, we were riding along on the road south of Interior, heading for Interior, and here came a car, and the top was down. Joe Height, one of the businessmen in Interior, was driving. And I said, oh, there is Howard.
Over in the thing.
He had come, he knew about the Interior Roundup, and he had come down to Interior. I had said when I wrote that we were talking about going to the Interior Roundup. So he thought, well, he'd come down. Well, I don't know whether he didn't know we were coming or what, but he had hired Joe Height to take him out to Wambalee. I didn't know anything about it. So anyway, we got out, and he had a big smile on his face and walked over to our car, and I said, well, we're on our way to Interior, to the Roundup. Well, he said, I was just coming out to Wambalee. So he said, we'll just turn around and go back. So we got back into his car with Joe Height, and we went on in. Mother said, really thought he was, now there's a kind of he says, I can see why you like him. She just took to him right away.
That was a funny part.
Yeah.
Everybody liked her.
And a big smile on his face. He was
Well,
very
he was
charming,
right. Yes.
very charming. And we went in, and we stayed up at Hammond's, and he would come up and visit.
Oh, certainly.
Huh?
It's because he was Irish.
No.
Well,
Howard was sincere.
He could be
No,
very nice, just as nice as could
It's
be.
nice.
Well, anyway.
Emmett, my brother, the doctor. In fact, we were just talking about Howard the other night. He said, oh, Howie,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a great guy.
Anyway, we stayed there in the hotel, I think.
Great guy.
And we stayed up, and he would come up to Hammond's, and we visited. So, we visited, and he said, Of course, Alice was going to summer school then. And Alice Crouch, my best friend up there, she was going with Frank.
Oh, yes.
And had, oh, wait a minute. By that time, yes, by that time, Myrtle, Frank's wife, knew something was amiss. So she had gotten on the train and come to Spearfish to find out what was wrong. And Alice didn't know anything.
She didn't know
about it.
anything.
No, she didn't know. And I think that was before I got up there. Because she wasn't there. She had gone home. Her folks had seen to it that she came home. And anyway, Howard said, why don't you come on? I've got to get back there for the Sunday game. He said, why don't you come on up, go back with me on the train, and you can stay there at, I don't remember where I was going to stay.
Where was he playing ball now? At
Spearfish.
At Spearfish.
He was playing ball for the Spearfish team. He
Yeah.
and Frank
Yeah.
were the main characters in that
Yeah.
team. They were winning all the games. And come back. So, got on the train, went back to Spearfish. I talked with Mother about it. Well, she said, well, that would be all right, I guess. You could come on the train down to Wheaton and come on out on the mail. So I went back, and so, of course, by that time, we were getting a little bit serious about things. And I just stayed one day, about, I guess, don't remember even where I stayed now. But it was at the hotel, it was this place that I had roomed. I think it was the place where I had roomed for the summer school, because it wasn't too long after summer school. Anyway, I got back home and got ready to go back to teach, go out to teach. Well, I went out to stay at Harris's. So when the baseball season was over in Spearfish, here came Howard out to Harris's to see me.
To harass you at Harris's.
And they were thrashing. In those days, they thrashed. I was teaching. He stayed about a week, I guess. And he went out and helped work on the threshing crew. And we visited in the evenings. And we did a lot of talking. He stayed more than a week, because during that week, he says, you know what? He says, why don't we just get married? You come on, and you don't want to teach here this winter, he said. Let's get married, and says, I can get a job up in the mines and leave. And stay out here. Oh, gee, I didn't know what to do about that. And I said, well, I contracted to teach this school. Oh, they can find somebody else to teach here. Because I knew there was a lady in Nolan that had really wanted to teach the school, but they'd already contracted to teach me. Well, I finally said, well, here I had taught about a month. And I said, well, maybe that's what we better do. So we got on a horse, rode horseback double over to the clerk's.
I never knew that Howard could ride a horse. I never knew that.
We rode double over to Kelling's. Mrs. Kelling was the treasurer of the school board. Or the clerk. I guess must have been the clerk. And I turned in my resignation. I, of course, felt very guilty about doing that, but I suggested this lady in Nolan. I said, I know that she would like to come and teach. She would drive out from Nolan. and teach. It was only 9 miles, and
Mhm.
drive back every day. So I didn't feel like I was really leaving them in the lurch. Oh yes, she said, I guess she saw, she had a family of girls, and I guess she kind of saw
Yeah.
how things were.
Seen this
So,
before.
Yeah.
She said, well, we hate to lose you, but I can understand. I said, we decided that we'd get married. And by this time, Mother and Dad had moved down to a place south of Kadoka, and Mother was going to teach the school down there, and Dad was going to do his superintendent's work from there. They rented the house in Monterey to somebody who wanted to go to school there. So anyway, we went out then. I don't remember how we got out there. We got a car some way, I guess. She wrote a check. It was pretty good, I thought.
Yes, gave it.
She paid me for my month's work.
Mhm.
And of course, she said, you'll have to forfeit the 10%. They kept 10% of your wage at that time in South Dakota until the end of the year.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so I got just 90% of my
Mhm.
monthly wage.
Mhm.
They said, you won't be able to get the 10%. And I said, well, that's all right. So we went, I suppose we hired somebody, took us out to the Wells place where Mother was teaching, and Mother was teaching Rose and Esther. They had a school right in their house there
Oh, my.
for the
Yeah.
children in that community.
About eight children.
8
Mhm.
children.
Yeah.
Went out there, and we broke the news to my folks.
Mhm.
Of course, Dad was a little upset.
He was upset, yeah.
He was a little upset. And Mother, though, didn't say much. She didn't have much to say. She
Yeah.
liked Howard. She thought
Yeah.
he was
You got married.
okay.
You're about
And,
20 then?
I was, yes, I was 20 in August.
Mhm.
And so we had decided to go to Rapid City. Of course, they were all busy. It wasn't going to be, in those days, out there, people didn't worry too much about big weddings or anything
No,
like
Just
that.
got married.
No,
We just
very
went
simple.
to
Sure.
very simple ones. We went to Rapid City on the train,
Uh-huh.
and he went down and got a license. We got a license, and
Did Howard make you pay for it, or did he buy it?
I don't know, he must have, he went to get it. He went to get it.
That's,
He went, now he
that's
says-
the favorite trick, you know.
Yeah, he went up in the
Yeah.
daytime, and no, he didn't.
No.
We went up in the daytime, and he made an appointment with the Methodist minister.
Oh, yes.
He did it all.
Mm-hmm.
He made an appointment with the Methodist minister, hunted up Abe Blumenthal. And I never did tell
Abe
Abe. He ran Ladies Ready to Wear.
Sure.
But he was one of the big guys in Rapid City on baseball.
On
and
baseball.
Howard had gotten well acquainted with him.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And he was a young fellow at that time. Abe,
Standing up at a
Jewish.
Christian wedding, huh? Yeah,
That's
isn't
right.
that something?
And then the wife of the minister was my attendant.
Oh, yes, uh-huh.
And Abe was his attendant.
Yeah.
He got the ring. We went down together to get the ring, the wedding ring. And then
Where were you married in?
Mother?
That's what church
Pardon?
was that?
Methodist, she
it was
said.
Methodist,
by a
yeah.
Methodist minister in his home.
Oh, yeah.
In his home,
Yeah.
in the evening it was.
Oh, yes.
In the
A
evening.
lot of that.
It was that evening that we got there. And, Mother had gotten busy. We were there about a week with the folks.
I see.
And she had gotten busy, and she had fixed me up some clothes, and so
Oh, yes.
at least be halfway decent.
Have a trousseau.
Yeah.
Listen,
And kind of special. Dad, I shouldn't tell this on Dad. He was a very practical man, and they were short on money. He was getting $50 a month for being highway superintendent,
Mm-hmm.
and Mother was getting a small wage for teaching. So he says, well, I'll tell you, we raised a big garden this year, and you won't need to go hungry. He said, here. He had raised a lot of beans, maybe beans in the garden, and let them get dry.
Guy.
And he had picked them, and he had fixed them up in a sack, and here he is saying,
It's your wedding.
here's, no, he didn't say that. He just says, here, you take these with you, so
Yeah.
if you get hungry, you can have beans.
What do you know? Sure.
So,
Sure.
Anyway.
There's nothing wrong with that.
no, nothing wrong with that. He says, I can't afford to give you anything much, but here's some beans. And we took those. So
I bet you ate 'em.
then I guess Howard had made arrangement. He had gone. He must have had this in mind before he came, because he had gone to Lead and arranged for a job in the mines there,
Yes.
Homestead Gold Mines.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, sure. He brought home a couple of pieces of quartz with little gold slivers sticking out. I don't know what's
What
happened
did
to
you do
him.
with them in the mine?
I
He had
don't-
them in his drawer
Well,
for many years.
I don't know what he did. But anyway, we were married, and we stayed in the hotel there for several days. October the 6th, we were married in 1922, and the World Series was on. But there was no television then.
No.
There was, and not very many people had
Had radios, no, uh-uh.
But there was a radio down in this, I think it was a bar. And so there were a bunch of guys that sitting around down there listening to the World Series. So that's the way we spent part of our honeymoon
Yeah.
there, was listening, going in there, listening to the World Series.
That's a good way. Economic.
Yeah.
Done.
And then we went up to Lead then, and he went to work. He stayed in a hotel there in Lead. He stayed, and I don't remember when it was, and we went to, my girlfriend, Alice, was teaching then up in St. Ange, I believe, up in the hills, and she came down and spent a weekend with us. We visited. And she was pretty much broken up about Frank. You see, when
Oh, I
he
would
came out
think so.
during the summer,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah,
and
it was a dirty
her
trick.
parents blamed me.
Blame you.
Blamed me
Yeah.
because they were sure that I must have known
Known
it,
it.
and then didn't tell her, but I didn't know anything about it.
You know,
Well, I was sort of naive, you know, and so was she. And-
she's kind of running down now.
Yes, and I think it's time now.
Oh,
Yeah.
now I would
To
like
close
to
it
tell
off.
you a few things that I remember that you didn't bring up. She brought sheet music home, and she could play there had been a little old organ given to the school, which in the summer,
Midday school.
Dad, we brought this little pump organ over, and Ethel would sit down with her sheet music. And I can remember one of them was, "Please don't talk about me when I'm gone." One was, "We'll have a lot of little oh my gollies, and we'll put them with the follies." Well, Dad came in and he heard that.
That was singing Jada.
Jada, jada, jing, jada.
Jada, 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 ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Dad came in and he said, Ethel, that song doesn't suit you.
Didn't suit him.
Yeah.
And then there was the one that was the answer to, there was one song that was an answer to the other. "Please don't talk about me when I'm gone." But there was another one. "When I'm gone, you'll
soon forget me."
You'll soon, now why don't you two sing
When
that?
I'm gone, you soon
Forget me. Sing it.
Never heard it.
And 'tis better I should go. You'll regret the day you met me. You have often told me so. Then there was the answer song. When you're gone, I won't forget you. You know, and there was the two songs, and I can remember these. I was only 7 because this was
Yeah.
in the day school, and those were 3. We had the
Oh,
little.
you long and leany, chilly, beanie, no.
Remember that one?
You're long and leany, chilly beanie.
Yeah.
Oh, you long and leany, chilly, beanie, mo. Oh, I love you so.
I love your.
I love your
Fantastic.
Oh, Dad hated those songs.
And we had the.
Then another one that my mother called me on. She misunderstood what I was singing. That was during the war. It was My Buddy. You remember?
Oh, yes, My Buddy,
My
yeah.
buddy,
Oh,
my buddy, my buddy.
Yeah, my
And
body.
mother thought I was singing my body, and my body. And she let it go for a long time, and she says, Ethel, what is if you're singing?
Yes,
I don't like that song.
yeah.
And so I sang it to you. Oh, is that what you're singing? Oh, I thought you were singing my body.
Well, Mother wasn't one to criticize much,
No.
but that one really just got
Oh,
to
yes.
her. a
Wanted to
little
get,
bit.
yeah, well, she wanted to get straightened out.
That's right.
We had the little phonograph that you put the round
Cylinder on?
cylinder on and had the horn. Yes.
Yeah.
And I can remember the different records and the songs we had, and there was, one was I'm Forever Blowing.
Oh, yeah, we
That
have
was
that.
another one.
Never blown.
They used to have a lot of Sousa, John Philip Sousa's.
Oh, yes, sure.
I can remember because we were not allowed to go into the parlor, a little kids, huh? Okay, that's one place you didn't go, that was only when the company came. You went into that special room because that's where that's furnishing was, okay?
That's that way.
So I had to, of course, sneak in one time, and I'm winding up the old Victoria, and all of a sudden, it snapped back.
Spring the,
So I broke a
So you-
finger. See that funny looking finger?
That'll teach you.
I never told anybody. I
Oh,
didn't dare.
No, it was like me with my cut
Right.
finger. We
sure,
had
you
to-
wasn't there. Oh, jeez.
Oh, I would've got killed. Yeah.
And then,
anyway, I think that's about,
well, that's
You know,
wonderful,
there used to
Ethel.
be a
I
lot of
just
video songs.
appreciate.
That one, If I knocked the L out of Kelly, she would have knocked the L
Yeah,
out
well,
of
I
me.
mean, right. And how about McGinnity at the,
At the wedding?
No, that's, you're thinking about Cohen at the wedding.
at the wedding,
Yeah,
oh.
Cohen at the wedding. But down went McGinnity to the bottom of the sea,
Yeah.
dressed in his best Sunday clothes. That's all I remember of that one. And then there was another one my mother used to sing.
mother used to sing that one too.
Oh. What was
Are
that
you
one?
the O'Reilly they speak of so highly? Are you the O'Reilly that owns the hotel? Well, if you're the O'Reilly they speak of so highly, something about I'm very glad to meet you very well, or something like that.
Oh, I never heard
Yeah,
that.
What was the
uh-huh.
song? Now, what was the song? Mom sang, you danced with it.
Oh, what was the one that you were talking about
I'll
last
take you
night?
home,
night.
Kathleen. You
That's
and
one of
Mom used to
Take
sing.
you home, my dear Kathleen, to where my heart has ever been. I don't remember the words.
The fields are fresh and green. I'll take you home again, Kathleen. Yeah.
Ethel
Of
could
course, I would harmonize, and your mother would
Yes.
sing
That
the
was that's
soprano.
really an Irish favorite
And we'd
Irish
all
song,
sing,
which they
everybody
sing in
would sing.
Ireland.
Yeah, she loved to sing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, Ethel could play. I can hear it. She could play that. And when she would get on the piano, it sounded was probably one piano down. It sounded even more beautiful because she would sort of trill it. Well, Ethel,
yes.
I can remember her.
I played by ear mostly.
Yeah, huh? But you knew that it all harmonized. When Rose learned to play, when we got the piano, Mother had it brought out. This was later. And she had it brought out, I think it was $300. It was a lot of money at the time. It had to be brought from Mitchell, South Dakota, and there's probably only 2 or 3 pianos in town. And Ethel then would play, when she would come, she would play these songs. Well, I can remember her. She was really the beauty of to me, she was absolutely a princess and a beauty. And I can remember standing by our tall dresser, this long thing, with the, and she'd have the lamp there, and she'd be getting ready to go to a dance with Leonard. This is much earlier. And she could just make her hair, bring it just so that it looked like natural curls. And I think she used powder. This is when she had the rats that she would put on the ears and make this puffs.
Didn't
But
put
then
rats
no,
on, I
no,
would rat
no.
it.
You would rat it underneath. But anyhow, you always looked so beautiful and smelled so good. You had the perfumes and all. And this top drawer we weren't supposed to go into it. But of course, Rose and I got a little stools. When Ethel was away, we got so lonesome because Ethel was she was the one that took care of us so much. And I can remember her rocking and singing these songs. And one of the songs she sang, oh, her voice was so beautiful, and she sang, the winds and the waves will obey thy will. Peace be still, peace be still. Something about the wrath of the storm-tossed seas, or demons or men, or whatever they be, No waters will swallow the ship where lies the master of ocean, and earth, and skies.
Oh,
And she would
my.
sing these beautiful
Yes.
songs to us and rock. Now, Mother was busy. Mother wasn't a
Mother
cuddler.
sung
She
a-
didn't.
she
She
sang
sang.
a lot.
I don't remember Mother cuddling us very much.
Well, Mother
The-
wasn't a
Mother's
cuddler.
not-
No,
she wasn't the
was not a
cuddler.
cuddler.
Yeah.
She was English, you know, restrained
Yes.
English.
Well, some mothers, like Bill's mother, I was so embarrassed when we went down to Iowa after marriage, and he went in the door, and he and his mother embraced and cried. I couldn't figure out a
Well,
man
that's the Irish.
Yeah,
hugging the
I
woman
can't help it.
Sure.
and crying and embracing. This was
Sure.
completely out.
Yeah.
And when I took my trip to learn how to live away from home, they took me in to catch the Kadoka midnight train, and it was muddy, and my overshoes were all covered with mud.
This is when you went to
When we
Pittsburgh.
went to
You know
Pittsburgh.
what that is? That's the Celts.
Oh, I know, but let me finish
It's
mine.
through the French, too.
Yeah. But listen,
And the
I'm
French were Celts.
But I'm in the middle of my story about
Yeah,
going,
I'm
and
talking
the tape
about
is,
yours, not
I
mine.
know it, but I'm telling about my
in the blood.
my remembrance of the first time I remembered my mother ever kissing me. And Mother and Dad took me in at night and got on this big monster train, and here I was, frightened to death, going to, my brother was to meet me in Pennsylvania. He had sent me a pass, and the black porter came and took me in, and Mother kissed me before I left, and I thought, she thinks I'm going to die.
Oh, no.
Because she kissed me. And they turned me over to him, and I hadn't seen a black man that I remembered. I know I must have, and he showed me my berth, and I got in the berth, and I put my old muddy shoes underneath. And because of my disorientation, when I went down, I thought I was going straight west, but not east, but I was supposed to, so that I used the restroom. And when I came out, I went the wrong way, and I went through to another car, and I got lost trying to find my berth. And finally, I found the place and got in, and I was so afraid to turn anything on because I didn't know what the whole thing would collapse around me, so I got in the dark, and it was so small, it was upper berth, it was so small to get undressed, I hardly undressed, but I was so excited. I would look out the window and see the passing landscapes and the little towns. It seemed
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, oh. And my classmates, I was a junior in high school, my classmates had given me a box, and I was to open at certain hours. I was supposed to open a certain present.
Who
and
was that, Esther?
Different ones in the
Oh,
high
in the
school
class, I see.
had given me a farewell party, and
Oh.
I always, it seemed I liked chocolate candies, but I was fussy about candy, not but much, and they had lots of candy and chewing gum, which I couldn't even face. There's all this sweet stuff and this candies, and others had written little notes and poems, and they had the autograph album, so I didn't sleep a wink all night long. And then when I got up in the morning and went down, and then I knew that you go back to where you were and you don't get mixed up. But when I came back, I started looking. They had folded up the beds, and I couldn't find my overshoes. But there was what looked like a new pair where I
That's
thought
right.
I
Of
was.
course
He had cleaned the boots.
Was it in
Porter.
They didn't.
always
The porters
Yeah.
cleaned the boots, and finally I saw my things there, and I sat down. And when he came by, I said, "You gave me the wrong pair of boots." I guess I didn't want to believe there was so much mud that I hadn't even seen what the boots looked like for a while. I saw with these muddy boots, and I was warned not to talk to people because a girl from Pierre had gone to Chicago, and that's where I was headed for. And something bad had happened because she got acquainted with an older woman who had her style. Anyhow, the story was, and she had this diamond ring, I don't know. I was not to talk to anyone, but I felt that the Negro porter, I could say a few words, but to make Esther be quiet, I was very frightened, so I didn't talk. And I kept checking in here where I had pinned like the money, like $10 bills, you know. And I also under the
What a giveaway, huh?
a shoe down here with money in it.
Oh.
They had me fixed up with a little money, wasn't much.
And he had to do those shoes.
Well, no, this was the boot, the
overshoes.
overshoes, you see, with the boot. And, but Mother had, my brother, sister-in-law from the east had been a very wealthy woman with beautiful clothes. She'd sent a big trunk of things out for Mother to make over. And Ethel and Mother had made me a hat, and it was something like this. It was the close type. Well, here I was 13 or 14, I guess. And it had braid on it, and I just hated that hat. But when you talk about the hat, oh yes. And the coat had a big natural fur collar. It was nice and warm, but this awful hat that you had to wear on the train, you know, wear this thing. I guess we're still running, but as we finally, I dozed off sitting up mostly and during the day, and when we came into Chicago, I thought there was something wrong because we just kept going, and we were the same town. You know, I never had seen this big city before. I was to go and wait for another train there, but to be met by a friend of my brother's wife. And my description is she would have a purple hat and a purple blouse on. And I was to meet her at the Travelers Aid Society. Well, I was just petrified with fear, but I got off and went in and found the Travelers Aid, and she wasn't there. And I looked, and I guess probably, I started crying then. Probably tears were rolling down, and the woman said, well, what's wrong? I told her, and she said, oh, well, she's at the Travelers Aid, probably on the other floor. So she called up, and the woman with the purple hat came. Oh, what a relief. Came down, and she was to take me to the barber shop there in Chicago and get me a haircut. My hair was straight and blonde and short. And I went in, and all these long chairs of people sitting getting their hair cut. I sat down and relaxed, and he said, you're all finished. He did it so fast that I couldn't believe that my hair was all cut. It was shingled up.